an open society, you would not have the level of activism around internet freedoms. In fact, some of the biggest activists in Cuba are bloggers who are doing everything in their power to say to the rest of the world, we need freedom of press, of expression, and it's not happening to us. So I think we have to have that discussion because it is what is taking place. And I think you're absolutely right that there is a push from people in Cuba. What is interesting is that it's not one end or the other. There are a lot of people in Cuba, activists, organizers, who, for instance, the gay policy in Cuba for many years was horrific. Right? There were people in jail who had AIDS. Not to say that the United States was any better with the Reagan administration. Right? So I think that having these conversations that this is better here than, or it's worse there, or better, doesn't allow us to have a more complicated discussion, which is what many people want to have, which is when we say what will the future look like, the future cannot look like the past or the present. What is it going to look like? How are we going to manage a discourse, a future, a discussion that is not weighed down by the press of politics of both sides? When Marco Rubio comes on TV and sits there and challenges a very simple demonstration on the part of President Obama, I'm like, this person does not represent me. At the same time, you also have to say, how are we here going to change our thinking about Cuba so that we can then have a fruitful dialogue? I remember we had the dialogues in the 1990s and the 1980s with people with Antonio Marcel brigades and so forth. They would go to Cuba and try to have some kind of dialogue. And I think that that's a place where we can begin. We have to admit that the society in Cuba has been repressive. You cannot pretend that it has not been repressive, just like the society in the United States has been repressive. At the same time, you have to understand that Cuba has been able to do things that the United States literally does not have the will to do, which is to educate its population, which is to give health care reform, which is to assist countries around the world who need that kind of assistance. So the discussion isn't one to reify one side or the other. I hope that that's not the discussion we have moving forward, but that we have to allow ourselves to imagine something bigger, to go, as Ricardo says, in the realm of the unthinkable, and question what has been done before, and have the desire to establish something else. And I think that that's what your point was on some level, which is that there are these, that we cannot continue to have this dialogue and not acknowledge that there has been repressive policies in Cuba. Do we have a dictator? Well, let's think about that. We've had the same administration in power for 50 plus years. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? Are there elections in Cuba? Perhaps, but under what conditions are those elections? We need to think about that. And one of the things that I think is really interesting, and may be something that might vote in the future, is that Cuba's biggest trading partner, export and import, is China. China has a massive influence in Cuba. So when people ask me, again, which we were trying to avoid this question, but it's there, what is the future of Cuba? You cannot think about or talk about the future of Cuba and not include China. And what China has been able to do in terms of having a market economy through a communist political structure. And so it's an interesting question then to think about. Is that something that Raúl Castro, who's very pragmatic, he's not as idealistic as Fidel Castro. He's extremely pragmatic. He allowed people to have cell phones. He opened up markets. He opened up travel. He was in discussion with President Obama for a year. So he seems to be able to have this kind of reality, but he's also a lot older. He's kind of weary about the internet. He liked to open it
each other. One family favored government, the other one didn't. So in that respect, I know exactly where you're coming from. Having come here and lived here most of my life after that, and away from Miami actually, in this area, you know, you also begin to get other pictures of different things, and you begin to realize that there's no black and white. It's not like one area is totally wrong and the other area is totally right. There's a lot of grayness there that has to be sorted out. And one of the things that I think you probably mentioned or hinted at is what are called half-truths, where somebody can say something and it can be very much believed, but it's only half right, half truth. And that's a method that was employed in Cuba, pretty much, where there were half-truths. Fidel Castro, you know, is a very intelligent man. He would talk about things, and he would say things that were true, but then there were hidden things that were not true. And I think that would lead people sometimes to believe that, hey, you know, everything is wonderful over there, and in reality it is not. But having said that, then there are also things that I know that the United States does that perhaps may have even pushed Cuba in certain directions that it would not have gone otherwise. As far back as 1960, you know, when Cuba went towards Khrushchev. One of the things that I learned, for example, not long ago, was that apparently Cuba did turn to the United States early on for loans so that they could do one of their first sugar harvests, and the United States at that time under Eisenhower refused it.
We have about
did that drive that down? So I think just to say, to agree with what you're saying, it's such a great area that I think what it would take is people to say, hey, you know, I accept that I'm not totally right, I accept I'm not totally wrong, and let's work forward.
And to add to your point, the relationship between Cuba and the United States' current tension is not 1960. It was 1835 with the Austin Manifesto when the United States wanted to purchase Cuba. You know, and so that there has always been this tense relationship, whether it's the Platt Amendment, right? And it's the United States kind of invading Cuba and putting up the U.S. flag and basically saying, you know, now we're going to have a colony possibly, or possibly a state, or backing the Cuban military so that we could have U.S. control on the island. So that there is, when you have the revolution cannot be looked at or examined out of context, out of historical context. Right? There is this larger, constant political of hundreds of years that leads to that moment.
We have about 5 more minutes, so I'd like to take some other questions, but please make them brief so we can just kind of fit in a variety of comments, okay? There's been one over here for a while.
I think one of the questions that needs to be asked too is we consider Cuba a lot in the cultural context, but perhaps maybe not in an economic context. Cuba, after the revolution, like several people have mentioned, seized a lot of property and nationalized a lot of industries. One of the more notable instances is where they seized the property of Julio Lobo, a man who once nearly controlled the entire sugar market of the world. And so the question is, with a lot of that gone, what is like Cuba's role in the new globalized economy? When they do enter into the world, what is the role for Cuba?
So hold that thought. I'm going to take a few questions, and then we'll kind of have some answers, okay? Because otherwise the answer will fill up everything.
That's a big
They're
question.
going economists on this panel.
Yeah. This is her question.
Just a question you may have started out the session with. When is Maryland planning to take more students and faculty to Cuba and bring Cubans here?
January.
There we go.
I'm working on it.
I brought a group down in 2009, and we are also working on it. So it
The
will
group just returned.
It will happen.
10 students just
Yeah.
returned.
There's a couple other hands over here.
I just have a question for these two, Wade, Benjamin, and front row. You guys both said you both left when you were teenagers alone to America. Do you guys have any regrets?
Certainly none. The only regret I have is not a regret. It's a sadness that I couldn't see my mom for 16 years because the government of Cuba would not allow me to see her. She was dying. And for 4 years, I got denials from the Cuban embassies. And that should be a shame to the Cuban government forever.
So the question I'm going to hold here, regret, right? I mean, this is a very important part of a Cuban experience and what's been going on between the two countries for a long time. Is family and regret and
question, but more of a brief comment. Since we're talking about future and how relations should go to the future, I do want to bring the point that Mr. Lorente talked about how to not being stuck on these ideas of what Cuba was, now that we try to normalize relations. And remembering how many hands were or were not raised when the question was asked, have you gone to Cuba? It reminded me of this recent episode of Conan when he went to Cuba. And a lot of people remember that were very celebratory. As I was watching very critically because it was stuck in that view of the pre-1959 Cuba. And from the get-go, he gets out and he sits on a table and you see the cigars play out from him with the mojito and the music. Right? And then he goes and visits a distillery of rum, a cigar factory. Things that are considered goods and commodities. That's what he did. He went to sort of showcase the goods and commodities that Cuba had to offer to an American tourist. And I was highly critical of that. The way the things he went to do and how he did it. And I'm not trying to come from a preservation point of view because I've seen that talk. No, what I'm trying to say is it's more about how when we do engage in this cultural exchange, think critical of how we're doing. Because we get again stuck in that perception of Cuba and really miss the opportunity to learn what is actually happening in the island when we do engage with that.
The entire island, not just the tourist boundary.
Yeah.
Is there any other, one more question, if there's any other burning things from the audience, and then we'll kind of talk about this so we don't put it off. But yeah, anything else, one more?
We talked about, or you mentioned this question, what is Cuba's future? And I guess my question is how do we get to that step? The only thing I can think of is when the news story broke in December about this Cuban relations, they talked about members of the Cuban reconciliation committee in South Africa being involved in various discussions. And is that towards reconciliation? What exactly? I mean, I guess how do we get there? Because I hear these discussions and they are very passionate and heated, and I'm just wondering how.
Nelson, no lawyer, is it?
So I think your question and the question about the economy are actually a little bit tied together. That if what we expect is for Congress to act and Raul to act and all kinds of things to happen, that's not very likely. But what you're more likely to see, in my opinion, I don't mean to pat myself on the back, but I broke the first Cuba food deal story. So I covered all this stuff over the last 15 years. And what happens is people find little incremental ways of making a deal, right? So we want to sell food. How do they get credit? Well, we're not giving them credit because we have an embargo that doesn't allow American banks to give them credit. So somebody else gave them credit. They got cash. They paid US dollars. And everybody went, oh, no big deal. Well, within 5 years, the US was one of the top food suppliers in Cuba. So I don't think that's the case anymore, but it was early on, right? So I think that's the way you see, things don't often, the Berlin Wall fell all at once, but that doesn't usually happen. Things crack. And I think what you'll see are little cracks, probably through things like food, internet technology, arts, the kinds of things that the United States does much better than China.
I was just going to say that I know you said that this was really passionate, and it's because we're Cuban, and actually I thought we were quite calm.
It's because it's in English.
Okay, well listen, it's 4 o'clock. Thank you all very much for coming. It's been wonderful. Thank you very much to the panelists for coming, especially those who come off campus, but also our local folks. Thank you so much. We do have another panel coming up on May 1st. For information, there are some flyers in front that say home, or go to the Latin American Studies website, and we will also have another collaborative panel on El Salvador and Central America, so we welcome you then. And also this gallery, if you didn't get our email, it's all the note, has a Latin American artist exhibition going on